we're going to get things kicked off because we have a lot of great content to share with you guys today. Sorry, I'm trying to control Sean's screen remotely and it went a little crazy. Sean, would you mind putting it back to slide 2? We're here to chat today about meeting modern student expectations with app-like experience in PeopleSoft. My name is Lynette Shadone. I am the practice lead for our project services. And with me, I have the fantastic Sean Brett. Sean is not only one of our leading experts in absolutely everything you can imagine inside of the campus system. So whatever campus questions you have, drop them in the chat because I like to play a game called Let's Stump Sean. But he is also a leading expert in tools that you'll find inside of enterprise components, people tools that cross across your financial and HCM systems as well. If you've worked with the Gideon Taylor team, you might have been lucky enough to work with Sean, and all we hear are amazing things. So you can also drop those comments into the chat just so that we can make him blush a little bit. But he's been working with one of our clients, and he has delivered some really cool solutions that we're going to look at within our case study today. This is led by Gideon Taylor. Many of you are probably familiar with us. We've been in business since 2001. We love to work with our clients to build out solutions. We also try to stay committed when we're doing presentations to keep our sales processes to a minimum and to keep our content heavy. I will make sure that we try to stay on track with that. I might just have a few shameless plugs for our projects or services as we go through, but hopefully there's a lot of really great PeopleSoft content in here for you guys to think through and think about how you can deliver it within your systems today. So our agenda, we're going to start off by defining App-spectations. We're going to take a look at an actual system, look at a case study of one of our clients who have used these tools to build out a very cool solution. And then in the end, we're going to talk through the building blocks of how you can build a better UX using solutions within your PeopleSoft system today. So Sean, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, so let's talk about App-spectations. As far as I know, this word's not copyrighted anywhere, and we just kind of made this up. Otherwise, let us know. But the definition of this is just the expectation that any digital experience should feel as intuitive, responsive, and as easy to use as the best apps on your phone. This doesn't always relate to what you might consider when you're working inside of PeopleSoft. But everyone's just so used to being on their phone, shopping, whatever site you go to shop, and having that experience of being able to do whatever you need to do in an app-like sort of way. Using it in a sentence, so users don't separate consumer apps from enterprise systems in their minds anymore. They bring the same app-spectations to both. So the goal of this presentation is really people that are in PeopleSoft, you don't want them to necessarily realize that they're in a PeopleSoft whenever they're doing this stuff. And to kind of represent, go ahead. Yeah, Lynette.
Yeah. So we'll jump in. We'll take a look at the e-commerce stuff just to kick it off a little bit so you know what we're taking a look at. We worked with the City Colleges of Chicago, and they had come to us with a big problem. So they knew that their enrollment was broken. They were seeing that 25% of the staff time was being spent enrolling students. It was costing about $10 per student to enroll them manually. And they also calculated that they were losing at least up to $250,000 a year of revenue risk just because people were dropping out of the process. They wanted to allow a very quick way for their students to enroll in their continuing ed classes and remove as many barriers as possible.
Yeah, and so how does that apply to App-spectations? When students go to purchase anything, they're used, just like with that Amazon sort of experience, going in and finding what they need. City Colleges of Chicago wanted students to have that same experience whenever they go and attempt to register for courses, in this case for continuing education. So students visit a site, they want that same experience whenever they're registering for courses. They need to be able to find whichever coursework they want to enroll in quickly and easily. If they run into issues, because certainly with continuing education students, not everyone in that population is tech savvy to be able to go into PeopleSoft and find the courses that they want and accomplish what they need to. So there's some tools implemented to help them through that registration process without a ton of manual intervention. And then a simple checkout. They wanted students to be able to go in, and students expect to be able to go in, select all the courses that they want to register for, go through a checkout process, make their payment, and complete everything that they need to complete, whether they were previously an existing student or they're just a brand new person that comes to the website and wants to enroll in some courses to check out. But all right, so how do you accomplish this? First thing you think, like, get rid of PeopleSoft, right? No. You've invested a lot of time, a lot of money, and probably very, very many years building up your PeopleSoft system to do what you needed to do. With the tools that you have available today in the latest People Tools updates, PUM images, the approach really should be to modernize the experience using those tools so that PeopleSoft doesn't look like PeopleSoft in the end. To meet users where they are using things like, in this case, we'll look at how the eForms assistant, the delivered eForms assistant was implemented to help guide the students. And then tools that maybe aren't delivered with PeopleSoft, but that you can build onto the system to accomplish some really neat things. And, might be a little bit biased, but there might be some GT tools involved with that. So what did things look like before? CCC's process for this continuing education was first, someone would have to decide that they want to enroll in continuing education and then find a continuing education specific application that this person would fill out. As part of this process, as you all know, some of the people filling out this form are going to be brand new people. Some of them might be existing students taking credit courses, which brings in the whole search match process of what do you do whenever you've got people trying to register for continuing ed that's already in the system. So that was part of their process. They had some manual search matches that had to be accomplished to get that done. Once students made it through that application process, then they would go to another sort of page that surfaced all the courses that were available. And if you squint and you look really closely, the way to register for these courses at the time was to click on a link for Microsoft Form. By the time students make it through this process and get to the form, Microsoft Form that has its own issues with backend processing and getting the students registered. Obviously, this was not automatically putting students in. Someone would have to go through these forms and register students. By that time, classes are full. Maybe it's a credit student that has since had a hold placed on their account. Just all kinds of things could go wrong. And I think if I remember correct, CCC had said, it could take days or potentially weeks sometimes to get students enrolled in the courses that they wanted for these. All right, so before we get into what this actually looks like, what did we build to make all this work? First, we've got our foundation of PeopleSoft, Campus Solutions, and OpenSearch. One thing that's not included here that I left out is that CCC also uses iHub, which is really where the search indexing is done to pull the coursework in, and then to also pull some information dynamically in real time from Campus Solutions to make sure things like the course isn't full, to show class enrollment, those sorts of things that need to be updated in real time. So on top of OpenSearch, we implemented GT WebUX Search 2.0, which is responsible for the interface on the search side of things for people to be able to find their courses. It also leverages those direct connections to Campus Solutions to be able to pull in any real-time information that we needed. In Campus Solutions, we had GT eForms to take care of the actual checkout process, from registering brand new people, checking their cart, checking for holds and errors and those sorts of things. and then taking them all the way through payment and their third-party payment gateway. Part of eForms that's delivered was the free version of the eForms Assistant that helps guide users when they don't know what to do about holds that they have on their account, or if they don't know how to fill out a certain field as part of the application if they're a brand new person or a guest attempting to check out. All right, so to look at each one of the tools that we implemented, first we'll show you the search side of things. So what you're looking at is PeopleSoft implementing our WebUX search. Students can go in, let me slow this down just a bit, search for their courses. As they come in here, they have a button to like add things to cart. We have logic implemented where if they already have it in their cart, they can't add it again. If tuition calc controls haven't been set up for the term that they're looking at courses in, they can't enroll. If they're a guest student and have too many items in their cart, they can't just keep adding 20 or 30 courses. So there's a bunch of checks and logic in place to make sure that we guide students the right way. Let me pause it here. You can see some of the information that we're pulling in. Obviously, all the branding is done through City Colleges of Chicago's requirements and specifications. Everything that you see here is being pulled in from the course catalog and class information. So you get real-time information of which seats are available. Is it still open? Wait list, days, schedule, class notes, all the things that a student would need to see to make the right choice. All right, pause it here. Again, we're still in PeopleSoft. You notice a little bit of animation and some magic whenever you click on the cart button to see what things look like whenever you open that up. So students can see what they have. They can see the total there. They can choose. In this case, we're visiting as like just someone out in the public that goes to their site and looks for a course. They have the opportunity to either check out as a guest, or if they already have an account and they know what that is, they can log in and check out. If they're already logged into the system, the only option that they have is to be able to check out. Just kind of let you watch this for a bit as I talk through a few things. So it just features searching the facets. These are all part of OpenSearch, things that are configured in the delivered, all the delivered stuff that's in PeopleSoft. So we've got facets here. Students can search and filter by. There's a search at the top. There's an advanced search where they can drill into more details about what they need to look for. All of these facets were defined by CCC according to what they expected best for how students would search for things. Let's see what else we've got here. That's just an example of the advanced search. Being able to drill down by term, subject, class status, starting dates, ending dates, campus locations, all those sorts of things. All right. So students go through this search experience. They find all the courses that they want to enroll in. They've got a big list here. They've got a total, and you've got these two paths. So either you're already logged into the system, and whenever you check out, I'll go ahead and get this rolling. Because you're already logged into the system, it knows who you are. It knows which holds you have on your account. It knows if you're eligible to receive some of these courses that are already sort of covered by CCC. So it takes you directly to your eForms cart. Here you get information, who you are. So it pulls in some info. You can see which items are in your cart. You get the details for those. Some of their courses have the option to use a waiver code for additional discounts. You can click details to see more information here. Again, all this is still in PeopleSoft. It gives you an amount. The waiver codes automatically sort of adjust. I don't think that's represented here. But if you have an actual code, it will adjust the amount that the student is expected to pay at this point in time. You're authenticated. You can also say, oh, you know what? I only have one course. I want to go back and add a couple of more. They can keep shopping and go back and add as many courses as they want, come right back into their cart. Part of this also is they can choose to either pay in person or pay online immediately. This person has chosen to pay online immediately. All the component interfaces that are part of everything that needs to happen in Campus Solutions to get the student registered and tuition calced are running in the background, and they can see this happening, their process for that, and stick around so they're not just leaving the page. CCC uses Nelnet, so courses are enrolled at this point, tuition's calculated. They can click that Pay Now button, go directly to their payment gateway, and pay for those courses without having to wait for, they'll get some. They don't have to wait for emails to go back into their account and finish their payment process. It's all handled in one streamlined instance here. This was all real time. This wasn't sped up. So someone can go in and register for a course and pay, within the span of 5 or 10 minutes versus 4 or 5 days or even longer. All right, the guest user experience is a little bit different because we don't know who these people are up front. They could be students already, and they're just trying to check out as a guest and make things quick and easy, or they could truly be a brand new person. So they go through sort of an application version. This is all the same eForm, where they go in, they get a verification code, and they have to fill out a bunch of personal information. Let me skip this a little bit. So all the details that are entered here are used in an automatic search match using CCC's existing search match rules to determine if this person exists in the system. So they'll fill out all this personal information. They'll get through their phone number. And then at that point, they click continue as new student in the background. This automatic search match is running. If it finds that you're an actual student, it will tell you to go and log in. You already have an account. If it finds that you're not a student, or maybe it's like a fuzzy match, it's not quite sure, it will continue on to the next page to get some additional biodemo information. Things like text messages, pronouns, emergency contact information, military status. And as part of this whole process, because these might truly be brand new people, they always have access to the eForms assistant. So if they're not sure what primary location means or what they're supposed to put for varying fields, they can ask the assistant as they're filling this out without having to call a help desk, without having to call anyone at CCC to get information, to kind of help guide them through the rest of this process. All right. In this case, it found that it was truly a brand new person, so they're allowed to continue as a new Impl ID, right? Register for courses, and from there, it's the same process. They can still check out, they can still pay for things. There are cases where it finds those fuzzy matches, and at that point, it would route to someone at CCC to resolve those, and the student gets a follow-up that they can then, their account's been cleared, they've either been matched or not, and they can get back into their cart to finish out the checkout process. All right. So that's the fun front end of things. You've got the course search that uses all the OpenSearch and indexing and real-time data with Campus Solutions. You've got the eForms that handles the whole checkout process, whether you're a brand new person or an existing student, and then everything that's happening in the background. So once they click Enroll Now, we're actually leveraging 9 distinct components to get all the data into Campus Solutions that needs to be there. So we're quick admitting students. If they're inactive students, we're updating some personal information. CCC has a custom biodemo component that we're updating, adding emergency contacts in, doing all the program plan activation for continuing ed. Works out well for them because they do can put all their continuing ed students into a specific continuing ed career. So that was helpful. And then all the term activation, quick enroll, and then finally tuition calc. So all of this stuff runs when you click that button and you see that progress bar. And once it's done, the student's ready to show up for class.
It's always so cool to see this slide in particular, Sean, because when we think back to how much it was costing per student, $10 per student, people were manually entering all that, and that progress bar was there for, I don't know, a few seconds, and all of this information was entered. So
Yeah.
it's a very cool process, and we love to talk about it. The CCC team also loves to talk about it. They've seen dramatic improvements in their continuing ed process. And from a marketing perspective, their marketing team loves it because they're now getting data to know which classes students are searching for. They can see which classes are being clicked on to see more details. They can see where students are trying to get through the process and where they're dropping off so they can try to remove friction from some of those points. And they have gotten very good feedback from their students and also from other universities that they've talked to about just the overall look and feel. If you happen to go out and do a web search, you can always go out and search for some classes from CCC as well, just to see what that experience looks like. But of course, we're here to talk a little bit about those building blocks. How can we build a better UX within our PeopleSoft system so that we can encourage students to be more engaged and we're really meeting those App-spectations that they come with? So a first thing to look at when we're talking about the UX is just the look, right? If people land on a page and it doesn't look very good, you're just going to lose people right away. They're going to get frustrated. They're not really going to know how to use the system. So Sean, do you want to talk about some of the tools that we can use to just give that updated app look and feel?
Absolutely. So I will say, like the campus solutions, I've been in it for a while, and we always get all the cool stuff after everyone else, right? HCM and finance always gets the cool stuff first. But some of the features that I'll talk about next is that there are things that exist in the more recent versions of People Tools that Oracle hasn't necessarily delivered an example for you to reference. Um, and I'll kind of talk through those as we come to each one of these things. It shouldn't stop you from playing around with this stuff, trying to implement it on your own if you have it available to you and you have those latest PUMs and tools installed in your system. So the first one I'll talk about is just this landing page. So in I think in 861, you have the ability to sort of create these sections on your home pages and what's now called like a landing page. And it really didn't serve too much of a purpose, right? You could group student record stuff into a section called records. You could group finance related stuff into a section called finance, which is great. But in 862, now you have more ability to define how all that stuff is laid out for you. So these are not, I'll disclaimer this, that these are not necessarily like best practice examples. These are like an hour or two playing around with the new features and campus solutions to lay things out so you can see that it is possible. So it's just a landing page that was created. You've got some sections that are available to you now. You can add tiles to those sections. And then you can apply style sheets, even as a functional user, through branding objects, different roles and classes, to make these sections look and lay out however you want them to. So in this case, there's a red section for an alert, and we've laid out personal info and records and finances into some groups. And down at the bottom, it's cut off, but you've got like insights. So the idea really is that you may have an administrator or staff member that's also a student, and they come into PeopleSoft, and maybe now you have to have them flip back and forth between their student homepage and their staff homepage to get to everything that they want to accomplish. Through these landing page features and loading content dynamically and loading entire sections dynamically, you can surface whatever you need to surface for whichever audience is accessing the system. So if I'm a staff member that's also taking courses, I can come in here and see which classes I have scheduled for this week. I can see how much I owe. And maybe I can also see a section that gives me some reports on things that I'm doing as part of my work using features like insights or query. So these are just two quick examples of doing that sort of thing. One thing I will mention, if you do have your friends over in the HCM realm that have 862 installed, Oracle did deliver a pretty cool landing page for that environment. So you can always go in and take a look at that. and kind of reverse engineer that and apply that to campus solutions to give you a head start on things. Now, when you want to go a little bit above and beyond what's available in PeopleSoft and Campus Solutions, I'll show you a couple of examples of GTUX, which has been applied for a few different clients, and these don't really look very PeopleSoft either, right? Much better experience for people to find and locate things. This example is of a student and advisor portal. There's another student portal here, again, all in PeopleSoft. They can quickly see their credit balance, the request. You can see on the left-hand side, they've got like an account summary, tax forms, delegates, contact information. So completely styled and laid out differently than you would expect a normal homepage. Are all familiar with the class schedule, the planner in Campus Solutions? Again, fancier version of that with UX, color coded. You've got some alerts, neat feature set for students to be able to like really see their schedule and get alerted on certain things rather than just seeing a day-by-day layout for that. Harvard has implemented sort of a similar class search as CCC. This is not connected to a shopping cart necessarily, but it does take advantage again of search, OpenSearch, and then branding and laying things out and putting extra facets, sorting, and search criteria into that course search functionality. Here's one of a slightly different student portal. Access to my financials, student accounts, budgets, you've got amounts, alerts that are located, quick and easy to find things. A couple more quick ones here. Another student portal from University of Calgary. And from the University of Minnesota. A couple of them here. This one is the page for academics. Grade layout, a couple of quick links to news, finances, and my info in addition to that. And then the my finances. This one has, this person has paid all their bills, so there's not a whole lot to see here, but it would show any charges due. And then quick access to help options for that.
And I think one of the most common questions we get is, yeah, but how much does it cost? Because I think a lot of those UX experiences that you're seeing, they look really good. They don't look like PeopleSoft. They're really delivering that app-like experience to students. So I will say a few things. It is much cheaper than I expected it to be. We would love to talk to you if you just want kind of a rough estimate. You don't have to do your whole system. You can do pieces and parts of it. And it's not a separate system that you're maintaining. It's not a separate application. These pages are just your PeopleSoft system. We're just rendering your PeopleSoft pages and putting a wrapper around it without having any other integrations or apps behind it. So there are things to keep in mind. And if nothing else, you can see the pictures just to give you some ideas of what you could dream your PeopleSoft system to look like while kind of staying in place. But the next thing, now that we kind of talked about the look, the next thing that's really important is the flow. There are many tools inside of PeopleSoft. I did a session just last week about kind of low-code, no-code tools, page and field configurator, activity guides, and things like that. But it's always good to keep the flow in mind. So as you're going through a business process or an experience, map out that flow, see where the friction points are within the system, and then see if you can minimize that. So for CCC, we knew it was searching for the classes was a friction point. Actually having to be enrolled at the university was a friction point. And then making sure people got enrolled when classes were before they were full, and then collecting payment. So really minimizing that. This part is another little piece about some GT products, but we'll try to cruise through it fairly quickly. But Sean, you want to talk a little bit about the flow for CCC?
Yeah, so with the eForm handles so much for CCC, um, from not only just helping guide the student through the checkout process, but handling all the checks that are in the background for holds, whether they're an active student or an inactive student, what their program plan stack looks like, who they need to contact if they run into issues, taking into account all the courses that might be free if it's their first time trying to take a course. CCC offers that. There's grants, there's private party courses that employers will pay for. There's a ton of stuff that CCC wanted implemented that's all handled within the logic of the eForm. Same thing for like all the component interfaces that fire are based off of the configurable CI that's in our framework. So those 9 component interfaces all launched from within configuration that was done with eForms. One thing, again, in this eForms with their framework version, they're using the delivered version of eForms Assistant to help things out, help students get through their process. And we just continue to release enhancements. I know the next enhancement that's coming up, I'm looking forward to because it has more configuration stuff. But the title of this slide is really eForms Everywhere. And I'll let Lynette talk about that. Basically, what happens with all of your third-party systems and external systems, and if one day you take the sad route of going to another environment, another system that's not quite PeopleSoft.
Obviously, like we're aware that PeopleSoft may not be a forever stop for people. If you've attended any of our other webinars or strategy sessions, we fully support a jump if you are looking to move to another system. We're also looking at the environment, and we often have thought discussions among our team that say, with the introduction of AI and what's possible, the landscape is changing so quickly. So it might make sense to stay on PeopleSoft another year because the way that we think of SaaS today is already outdated. The way that people interact with systems or build new pages, like what we're going to see in a year or two, I think is going to be totally different with the introduction of AI. But if you are looking either to move soon and you're looking at a process flow of how you can build out some custom pages for students to interact with the system or your administrators, or you just use other systems today and you want to integrate with those easily, we do have a product for GTE forms in the cloud. And I'm just going to show you just a little bit of what that looks like because it's really pretty cool. You can integrate with your PeopleSoft systems as well as any other systems. It does direct database hits in real time to PeopleSoft. So here I'm doing a search through our cloud product. The results that I'm seeing are actually results real time in PeopleSoft when you're building out a form. Users see a fully accessible, fully compliant form. You can still build in all of the logic for when things show and hide and walking users through the system. Very similar to what we see in our PeopleSoft eForm tool today. But this doesn't have to be tied into PeopleSoft. So you can build your PeopleSoft forms today and you can know this is waiting for you when you need to make a move. You can just use this eForms and Cloud tool only. You can use both of them to build out solutions and really kind of build that flow for users. So use your PeopleSoft systems, use your systems as you can, but then also think of using tools to kind of blend within an app-like experience so people aren't having to navigate around the system and you can really minimize clicks in there. And just a quick look at how the setup is done within the cloud system. Clicks are just a little bit delayed here. Oh, Sean, I may need your help.
Yeah.
It was jumping around. If you can start that video for me. Thank you. Within the new tool, when you're just thinking about building out your process flow, there is kind of the drag and drop page setup. So you can drag and drop things and build it out with configuration based. It's configuration based to build that lookup within PeopleSoft. When we saw that we were getting those results, you can tie into any PeopleSoft table and link it into your form just like you can today for those of you that are familiar with that. And then you can fire your component interfaces as well. So CCC is using the PeopleSoft version, but just as you're thinking about the future and where you guys need to go, it's always good to know that your effort that you put into building your flow and processes today wouldn't be lost within the system as you kind of expand and move on to the next thing that's out there. All right, so we talked about the look, the flow, now the simplicity. So even more so than ever, everyone expects to have AI embedded in your process. People expect to have answers very quickly. Their attention span is very short. Frustration, if you encounter it at all, they're probably just going to stop. And if they have questions, they want answers immediately. So, really focusing on when you're thinking about an app like experience, thinking about ways that you can add simplicity into the process throughout the flow. Sean, I'll let you talk about some of the tools in there that are available for simplicity.
Yeah, so normally whenever you think of AI, you think of chatbots. And for this specific example, it's a chatbot, but it's a little bit more in that it understands more about who you are whenever you're in the system. So here's sort of a campus example where someone logs in and they have some coursework available, and they want to know what sort of trends they see, or what sort of trends IDA here sees based on the courses that they've already taken. So it knows things like, okay, you've mainly taken economics related courses, business. This is the schedule. You've kind of taken it over. And then based on your coursework that you've had so far, it can recommend which major might be most suitable, which major or majors might be most suitable for you to take. Um, so just complementing that advisor model to direct students to the things that they are successful in based on course history that they've taken here, or maybe that they've transferred in. Maybe they want to know what courses they're a late riser. They like to stay up late and wake up late. Um, have it build a schedule based on, what's most appropriate for your daytime routine. Um, Considering with AI, it's can be so much more than a chatbot, though. It has the ability to, really work as an agent, really work as an extra hand, an extra staff member for you to handle things that normally would have to be done manually. So just the ability to boost productivity. You've got things it can learn to accomplish job tasks, and then embedding AI as a bolt-on so that you don't have to customize things that you normally would have to customize to accomplish a specific task. Um, so just being able to extend that a little bit more, we've got our example from CCC where it was pretty basic. Um, Students and prospects can ask questions throughout the process of filling out this form and registering for courses and get some feedback on how they need to finish things out. That more detailed example of how you can implement AI. This is an HR example, but just be thinking the next few slides how you can use these things in campus solutions. This is an example of an expense entry where someone can go in, they went to a conference, they've got meal receipts, they've got hotel receipts, airplane tickets, those sorts of things. Um, Normally they'd have to go in, enter all this stuff manually by hand. Um, Obviously, this part's sped up a little bit, but just showing they had a bunch of receipts from this trip that this person had to enter. They've uploaded all these PDFs, and through the AI implemented here, it read all those PDFs and automatically categorized and entered all the data into this form for this person automatically. And you still have the ability, because it's an eForm, to make adjustments to that. Um, things that may have come in, things that maybe didn't take account for. So not fully pulling people out of the loop, but just giving folks an opportunity to really speed up um, how they're accomplishing mundane tasks like uploading receipts from a conference for expense accounting. So put on your thinking caps. Would love to hear what sorts of use cases you have thought about or have dreamt about. As far as using AI and campus solutions, some of the things that we kind of came up with here. Transfer credit evaluation, seeing how coursework that students have taken apply to the programs and plans that you offer at your institution. Admissions evaluation, you may have rules and all the delivered features that you're using to evaluate, or maybe you have a bunch of customizations in place where AI could possibly help you with that evaluation. Search match tuning, maybe it's been a while since you visited your rules. They need a little bit of love to get caught up with all the new students that you have coming. And then we did our best to keep this presentation PG, but I'll say duplicate cleanup because I know that's a bad word for a lot of folks. You can use AI to kind of help with that, help you identify duplicates and clean that stuff up. Identifying high-risk students, take a look at everyone's historical performance, their biographical information, programs that they've taken, maybe meetings that they've had with their advisors that you have notes on, all that information that's available in Campus Solutions to help identify and provide recommendations on resolving issues that they might be running into. And then big one might be course planning. So you might be using your degree progress reports to generate advising analysis tables that you're using to then plan out, okay, this many students need to take these courses in the next term. Which faculty do I need to line up? Which facilities do I need to line up? Everything that comes with course planning. If you're relying on those database tables and reports, and hopefully you built the query out right to use all those records, you could consider implementing AI to kind of handle that same sort of thing.
And I think some of the cool things about AI, if you're thinking about your PeopleSoft system today and how can you tie that in, you can use a lot of the delivered functionality. We can use event mapping to make calls out to AI and bring information back in. You can use AI to populate reports and some various things like that. So there's a lot that you can do today inside of your PeopleSoft system without customizing, and you can really loop that in. I know our example was of an eForm because that's the easiest thing for us to show because we have the most examples. There really is a lot that you can do inside of Campus. And people are always asking us, like, what are the examples? Like, how could a student or how could an advisor use it? And my advice is to always go out and talk to your users. Go talk to people and find out the things that are the most taking up most of their time. And you're probably going to find an opportunity that you could automate at least pieces and parts of that by making use of AI. And leading into that, of course, I mentioned advisors, you have your financial aid office. You have so many people out there beyond students that are using these systems. So as you're mapping out a process and you're thinking about App-spectations that people might have of your system today and just making sure that it flows smoothly, make sure that you're not just stopping with your primary user. Oftentimes, when people are mapping out a user experience, they'll at least identify that first persona, right? The primary person. In CCC's case, it's the students, right? They're the primary person we want to make life easiest for. But if we just stop there, we're missing out on a big opportunity because now we've put information in the system. We have all this data available. So how can we now help our administrative users take advantage of that, make their life easier so that they can process information? We drive enrollment up, we decrease the amount of time that's spent within the system. So Sean, you want to talk about some of the tools we have for building out administrative features?
Yeah, and so first thing I'll talk about here is OpenSearch and Insights. This is another one of those things where HCM and finance got the cool stuff first, but it's still available to you. So OpenSearch, if you don't have it running in your environments now, when the session's over, go run and talk to whoever you need to talk to start getting that going. There's so much cool stuff that you can do with OpenSearch, and it has to be in place to get these insights working. Um, First, how many of you guys have queries that you have to run for administrators every day and they want constant tweaks to it to see whatever they need to see to accomplish their work for that day? It's so much better to be able to build out insights and dashboards for these that they can click on and click through and filter however they need to, and have up to the minute data that they can make their decisions on without having to constantly bug you about it. So OpenSearch you can get configured. It has more benefits than just insights. OpenSearch is used for everything. That's kind of the primary way people will navigate if they're not already, just to be able to type in something and get taken to where they need to go to. If you have OpenSearch installed, you're already more than halfway to having your dashboards up and running. And so again, with the insights, with the dashboards, there are at this point, no delivered ones that Oracle provide you as an example in Campus Solutions. Lots of examples in HR and finance. Again, that shouldn't stop you from building out these dashboards if you have access to OpenSearch and insights in your environment. This was just a quick example that we did to show that it is possible. Monitoring institutional loans. So this is using campus data in one of our demo environments. So it is possible. You don't have to wait for Oracle to send you an example that you can reverse engineer. You can go in and build out these things now. Very helpful. Not only that, but these can be used as a navigation tool also. So wherever you have insights available, you can use the links and the drill through URLs to direct you to the pages and components that you need to complete transactions for the things that you see in this dashboard. So you may have KPIs in place. You may get alerts. Things show up in red on your dashboard. You click on those and it takes you to the transactions that you need to go to manage it and finish it out. Another feature that's available on campus, but not really anything delivered for you just yet, are fluid work centers. So a way to consolidate your actionable work for individuals. So they're not jumping all around PeopleSoft or searching for things. You put their queries there that they use frequently, tons of options for personalization. And the cool thing is that you can embed these insights dashboards directly into work centers. Normally you'd have to hunt down the tile that has the report on it or hunt down the home page, click on it, look at the dashboard, click on something else. With these fluid work centers, you can put the dashboard directly in the work center and even use it to filter out what you would normally see as a returned search from your normal component interface searches or component searches. You can use your dashboards as a way to search for things and populate what you would normally see as a grid below that to get to those transactions that you need. Extremely useful features. And then going a step further with that, with AI reporting. So you can leverage these to go through, run your reports for you, run whatever reports you train it on, and it can not only give you the results of that, but recommend actions that you should take to resolve things that are critical, elevated, or that you need to monitor. So in this case, we've got what looks like some form reporting that's happening, and there's some that are in error. There's some that maybe need to be recycled, some that need to be escalated to HR. So it has that ability to go in and dig through your forms, figure out what's most important for you, and tell you what you should do to take care of those.
And I think this is one of those areas where it's is that a delivered PeopleSoft feature, really? Um, I don't I don't think it's not. I don't think it should stop you from exploring doing AI reports. Insights have a lot of great power to them. They're looking right at your data. You don't have to be as careful or take as many steps to mask your data before feeding it in and bringing it back into your system. But there, aren't pages in PeopleSoft where you can just go configure things functionally and have an AI dashboard present itself. but there isn't anything that you have to customize within PeopleSoft to do this either. So you can do kind of a bolt-on page that's rendering some of these reports for you. You can use your event mapping tools. You can call things even from using Page and Field Configurator. So there really isn't any reason to not do it today. A common trend or worry I hear, of course, is data and how you can keep your data secure without sending personally identifiable information. And there are certainly things that you can do and things that you can put in place. So this isn't a product that I'm selling you. This particular use case is in an HCM system, not a campus system. But we can help you implement this. If you don't want help, you could go out and do it yourself. Something that we make sure we do as we implement it is we have steps in place to scrub data and bring it back in so that you're not feeding anything you don't want out into the wild. And also just securing your interaction with whichever AI tool that you're using. But start thinking about this when you're going and talking to your users, whether, again, it's students, it's advisors, it's professors. They're going to tell you today that they go in the system because they have an action in mind. So they're having to think through in their own head and monitor and somehow manage their tasks to know, I need to enter the system because of X. But imagine a system where you go into the system and the system tells you you need to do X. So you no longer have to use your brain cycles to try to remember, like, oh no, like what are my critical things I need to look at? You can do that with insights. You can also do it with AI dashboards, but just really start thinking about your user experience in terms of that as you're building things out. And don't be scared to start dabbling into the world of AI and embedding it into your system. So, of course, we cannot talk about user experience right now. Like, there is nothing we can do without mentioning our looming deadline that's ahead, because probably most of you in this room are impacted by the requirements that you become WCAG 2.1 AA compliant by April 24th, 2024. If you're not in this round, you have a little bit more time. But as you're looking at your UX and the experience in your PeopleSoft system, this is a really big deal for people right now and something everyone's trying to solve very quickly. We've talked to a large number of clients, and almost all of them have said, like, oh, we're not going to be ready. And if you happen to not fall under US rules, just give someone a hug if you know any of them that do fall under this, because they're all frantically trying to figure out how to meet these requirements. But even if it's not a requirement, like, let's find ways to make our PeopleSoft system accessible. There's some very simple and basic things that we can do so that when people are using accessibility tools like a screen reader, it works well for them. That's another barrier. That's something that's preventing someone who wants to come to your university from actually being able to attend just because they can't complete the process. Or as people are zooming in into PeopleSoft because they need to have the font larger, oftentimes bad things happen, especially if you're on a classic page. So anyone who asks me, what do we do? My first advice is always, you really need to look at fluid pages. Implement as much fluid as you can, because PeopleSoft does have a lot more compliance when it comes to fluid pages. If you find yourself in the position where you're like, I need a quick fix, whether it's because you're facing the DOJ's regulations or you just want to be more inclusive, and you have a lot of classic pages, I just want you to be aware that we do have an Accelerator tool that's available. It comes with the install, and we do a discovery and a roadmap as part of that. So we'll load our tool into the system. We run to find and identify errors with your accessibility to generate a report. And then we have a tool that's installed at a header level in your system. And we're seeing that usually resolves 80% of your accessibility issues. through the system. And then any that remain, we can actually give you a report of how you should resolve those. If you can't move to Fluid, or you might be having issues in Fluid as well. I know seeing is believing, so I do, all the boring talking to be like, yeah, there's this cool stuff we can do. And then Sean gets to deliver the actual cool stuff. So Sean, do you want to show him just a quick demo of what that accessibility tool looks like?
Sure. So there's a visual representation of going into a classic page and running a scan on this page to see what kind of issues that we're running into. So on this particular one for direct deposit, it found 7. And there's another page that we're going to look at here for view paycheck. And that's going to run into 16 total issues. So you have to pay attention. You got to watch it because it happens pretty quick. And we're going to run that tool in the background. Did the accessibility cleanup and fix 19 violations. So then going back into that direct deposit page and rerunning the scan pulls up the 0 issues. So kind of just like that, those were resolved.
And it does seem like, really, is that too good to be true? A lot of the issues that we're seeing in PeopleSoft, when we've examined screens, there's probably a few key areas that I know of. But a lot of it has to do with tab order, how things navigate throughout the page. They may be missing ARIA labels. They're really kind of simple things. And so we can, at a system level, add some scripts that just make it so it can auto recognize that information. Now, I think this is an area where AI would come in later, right? And maybe accessibility tools are going to get a lot better. Maybe they won't rely so much on your pages having to be set up in the right way. But for now, if you're inside of PeopleSoft, you have to use the PeopleSoft accessibility tools. So this really is the quickest way that we've seen that we can resolve your accessibility errors within PeopleSoft without having to implement too many apps on top of things. Of course, there are still times when you might just want to build out something like an eForm because the page is just a lost cause. But one of our big victories when it came to accessibility was just making it so PeopleSoft pages would redraw as you zoom in, because as many of you probably know, PeopleSoft renders based on your screen size when you log in. So it determines if you're on a mobile device or a computer at that moment in time. So we've been able to make it more reactive. So if people zoom in during their session or out, it can react in those ways. And as we wrap things up, if you're thinking, oh my gosh, Lynette and Sean, you just spewed all of this information at me. I want to get started, but I don't know how. As you might imagine, Sean and I both would love to help you. We have a team of experts as well. Whether you're thinking about the look, the flow, the simplicity, or you're facing these WCAG requirements, or you just want to make sure your system's accessible, or anything in between or beyond that, when you're just thinking of mapping out your solutions, we would love to be of help in any way that we can. We have 3 kind of packages that we sell. We can also customize something to you. We can do a quick start, which really makes use of those landing pages that Sean was talking about in the beginning, helping you understand how you can set up your own landing pages, especially in Campus, since you don't have that many examples to use. Coming up with kind of a branding look and feel and a plan of how you can make the most of those delivered tools. We can add on above and beyond that if you're thinking some of those WebUX pages and portals and fields, portals and like the look and feel of those sounded like something that you might like. That's certainly a step up, and we're happy to talk about that. And then we also have a number of clients that kind of do that full transformation. So let's come up with a plan to implement AI, and let's come up with a plan to use chat and kind of that bigger picture. So really building out a full all-encompassing transformation plan for you. I do have Scott on with us today. So if you wanted to just fill the chat up with Scott, reach out to me, reach out to me. We have these awesome specials. And this is running through June for any contracts that we sign up through June. So if you are interested and you're also just short on money or something, this could be a good option. But either way, we hope that the information we provided you today just gives you ideas for how you can think about your own system differently and not feel so locked into how PeopleSoft looks and behaves. I didn't actually see any questions. I was like all excited to type and answer questions. I didn't see any in the chat. Brett had said that we don't have a session bumping right into this. So if any of you have questions, we're happy to stay and answer them. But if you find this to be the end of your session, we really appreciate you all joining. If you would like to reach out to us through the Gideon Taylor website, absolutely do that. My email is Lynette@Gideon Taylor. And Sean, yours is Sean.Brett.
I get the dot. Yeah.
All right. he joined by the time we started having last names. So yeah, we'll open it up. Does anyone have any questions or anything you want to take another look at? All right. We must have wowed you into silence. Well, it was really great seeing you guys today. I love seeing names I recognize. Joanna, Hannah. Hey.